Hey, everybody. I forgot to mention this in the show, but this episode is going to be our first video episode. Now, it's kind of our first video episode because I've done some video episodes in the past with the Thanksgiving extravaganza. But this particular episode, is something I'm starting um, to do, which is post our interviews on YouTube. So if you want to go watch this on YouTube, you can follow the link in the show notes because I don't know my YouTube channel off the top of my head, but follow the link in the show notes and you can watch this episode on YouTube. All right, let's get to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. And on today's episode, I am joined by two guests, Lamar Wilson and Pat Dengler. Now, before I introduce our guests, I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to discuss on today's episode, because it's not an interview. I've been wanting to do like roundtables for a while, and I even had the thought of doing a roundtable like last fall, and for a variety of reasons, it just didn't work out, right? Normally, this show consists of EV news, earnings calls, special events, and then interviews, right? But one of the problems, I think, one of the places that this show falls short is you really only get my take on EVs. We're not really discussing EVs when we have an interview. Sometimes we're kind of discussing topics around EVs, right? Whether it's charging or different ways companies are implementing technology in the EV space. But in general, when it comes to talking about the EVs themselves, you're really only getting my opinion. And while I think my opinion, let me be very humble here, is very valuable, I do recognize that you might want to hear someone else's take, someone who might actually have thoughts similar to yours, right? So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm really pleased to have on the show for the first time, Pat Dengler. When Pat's kind of been on the show before, her and Allison and Steve Sheridan recorded a segment about Pat's Tesla wall charger failing, and they talked about Pat's experience with customer support for Tesla. And by the way, it was great. Tesla did a good job and made it right. But I had not had a chance to have her on the show where her and I are actually just talking. So I'm very excited to have Pat on the show today. Now, if you aren't familiar with Pat Dengler, Pat owns and runs Dengler Consulting. She is a Apple certified support professional with over 15 years of experience. And what she does is she helps kind of demystify technology for home users and small business owners. Pat's also an EV enthusiast, and I think the only person that I know who's actually seen a Rivian R12 in person. And Pat and I are members of a group of EV enthusiasts, and we talk about EVs all the time. And she has some of the best takes in the group. And I'm not taking down anybody else in the group. Everybody in this group is way smarter than I am. But I really value Pat's opinion. And when she posts something, I pay attention to it. And our next guest is Lamar Wilson. And Lamar is a tech and lifestyle digital creator. I was first made aware of Lamar way back when he was on, I think it was not Tech TV, it was Leo Laporte's This Week in Tech. And I don't even know how many years ago that was, but I've been following Lamar for a very long time. You might have seen Lamar's content on TikTok, YouTube's Threads, Snapchat. He unboxes a bunch of different gadgets. He shares his thoughts. Just overall, his content is light, it's fun, it's informative. I highly suggest you go and check out what Lamar's doing on those channels. If you're going to look for him right now, it's Lamar with 2 R's, Wilson, on all of those social media platforms. Lamar has this kind of unique blend of comedy and insight that makes him very relatable. And just in general, he's a very likable person. He's hard not to like, I should say. So go check out what Pat and Lamar are doing, and I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes as well. All right. I am very excited to welcome Pat and Lamar to the show.
Hi, Bodie. Hi, Lamar.
Hi, Bodie. Hi, Pat.
So today we're just going to sit down and talk about the different EVs that are out there, and we're going to cover what's this? 1, 2, 4 of them. 4. We're going to cover 4 EVs today. Let's start with the newly remodeled 2025 Model Y. And Lamar, since this was your idea for us all to get together, what do you like about the 2025 Model Y?
It has a nice. I'm just to clarify. I'm a 2024 Y owner. So just got that, and then of course they did a refresh the next year. Thank you. Uh, I've heard. I have not had a chance to test drive it, but the suspension is greatly improved, and that's been a little sore point. I've driven long distance, and just felt the bumps a little bit. With my 2024. The sound is better inside the acoustics. I like the way the lights look in front. They've. I think is it a light bar or did it have different? I don't have the picture in front of me,
I think
but
it technically is
it's like a
considered
light bar. Yeah,
I think both the front and the back.
Front and back, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
just a nice sleek look. I believe I think on some models the front didn't have the Tesla logo. I saw in a couple, unless somebody took it off. I've seen a couple that didn't have it on there. So it just had a nice clean look, and I think the fit and finish just inside. I know it's a very simplified car, but the fit and finish seems to be improved. Compared to the last two I've had, where I've had to screw in some stuff and move some things around to make it work. Just overall seems like a better car. Everything else, as far as range and all, this seems about the same. I'm a all-wheel drive, person, so I pay a little bit more for that. But yeah, it seems like an overall just sleeker version of the car I already have.
Yeah, and I'm going to get your thoughts in a second, Pat. I was at the car wash the other day, vacuuming out my car, and it was an old style Model Y. I have a 2023 Model Y, so it's an older style Model Y, the new Model Y, my Model Y, and then a new Model 3 all lined up at the car wash. And I didn't get a chance. They left when I was pulling in, so I didn't get a chance to chat with the people that bought the new Model Y. But it does, like, when you go out and you look in front and you look behind these cars, the side is pretty much the same, but it does look remarkably better than my car, and I think my car's great. I think it looks better than the new Model 3, and I think the new Model 3 looks great. What are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, I agree. I love what they did in the back. Um, Honestly, I cannot tell you specifically. Obviously, the light bar is one thing, but they changed the shape of the back in enough of a way that makes it look better. And it's not huge, but it is very noticeable. And I definitely like the new look. My Model Y is a 2022, and interestingly enough, I've got a client who she took she got her 2022 Model Y about 3 months after me, and hers has some significant differences on the inside. First of all, she has a tonneau cover in the back, and, her dashboard in the front wraps around and molds, it's the same shape as the doors, which was different than mine, but hers is still considered a 2022, which I thought was interesting that they made those changes back then. Um, but yeah, I love the shape of the front in particular, and I don't remember if the logo's on there or not either. Um, but it looks to me like the interior is pretty much the same except for the features that they added, but I think the design of the interior. Oh, no, they've covered the cup holders, so there's a door now for that, which probably on mine will always remain open, just
Same.
because I always put something in there. Um, my if you want, are we talking about our favorite things about the new Model Y, the Juniper
Oh, for
model?
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Um, I love the fact that the putting the back seats down from the rear hatch is now all electric, and it brings it back up again. This is something that is just like, oh, I wish all cars had that.
I agree with that one.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys get this feeling, but when I release that latch in the back, it always feels like I'm gonna pull too hard and it's gonna break. I don't know if you get the
Oh,
feeling when you do that, but,
no, it
every single
feels
time.
yeah, it feels good to me. I feel like it's a little bait and switch because it feels like then it should be automatic to bring it back, but it's not on my current car.
Yeah, I've had the 2021, I leased that one. That was my first Tesla. Then got
Mhm.
the 2024, and the release of the 2024 model is much smoother,
Mm,
way much smoother. But I wish it would like with the newer model, like you said, Pat, that it came back up when you pressed it. That would be nice. You know, I find myself, going in the back seat and pushing it up.
right.
Just kind of like old school car type of feel. So I'm glad that's a nice refinement. I'm glad they changed that.
Mhm.
Do you either of you care about the ambient light? Lamar, you mentioned like acoustic glass, which I think is really good for nice quiet. Do you like that it retained the signal stock?
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I'm not ready. I'm a very digital forward person. I'm a very tech head guy, but I'm not quite ready. Some of that stuff is just muscle memory. I'm in my 40s, right? I've been driving for 30 something years. So it's a muscle memory thing. The younger Gen Z people, they will love it. They haven't had the experience of driving. They'll press a button to turn left. That makes sense to it. And I see why they did it on some models. I think the Model 3 has it. Is that correct?
Yeah, the newer
They
Model 3
remove
has it, and I
yeah,
think the Cybertruck has it as well.
yeah. I think that also they didn't put the yoke in, but I would not have even entertained the yoke at all.
Oh, sure.
I'm not there yet either, for that type of thing. So, yeah, I'm very happy that the stock is still there.
So
How about
when
you,
they
Pat?
when they first redesigned the Model 3, I went and test drove it. They had a little event here at Tesla in Santa Monica, and I enjoyed I mean, it was definitely something I would have to get used to, but I enjoyed having the buttons for the turn signal. What I didn't enjoy was having to go to the screen in order to change it from park to drive to reverse. That part I would like it on the stock because it just I don't know, having the physical movement, feels better to me. I feel more confident with it.
Yeah, I haven't tested that either, but having to reach over to
Yeah.
like, quickly reverse and turn, especially you trying to get in a parking space, you kinda just imagine you have to kinda, like, move it quickly.
Well,
It's a muscle memory thing.
and you have to keep looking at it because you have to know where you're tapping on the screen, whereas with the stock, you can just feel it, so I don't have to look at that. That was one big, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a disappointment, but, it's a wish that I sort of that I would give up the turn signal stock, but not the whatever, changing the gears stock.
Okay, and what about I don't know if you have anybody riding in your back seat. So, for me, I have my 2 kids, sit in the back, and, it is a constant battle of, "Can you turn it colder? Can you turn it warmer? It's too
Mm,
hot, it's too cold back here." Can you turn the heated seats on? Which is awesome that you have heated seats in the back of the car, but I hate having to stop what I'm doing while I'm driving and make those changes for what could have been a very easy fix in Tesla from Tesla in the very beginning, which is to put a little powered, touchscreen back there. It couldn't have added that much to the actual price. So, do you have anybody riding in the back seat that cares about that?
no, rarely do I have somebody in the back seat.
Yeah, same. I've had a couple of people, and they've said, they just adjusted the air. I had the air on, and
Mhm,
they were able to adjust it,
mhm,
whether this blows on them or not.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I haven't thought about that. Like, it's one of those things also haven't cared about screens in the back because no
same,
one's no one's in the back of my car for the most
yep,
part.
Yeah, and this is like my wife and I are looking at buying a new car for her. And one of the things that we have 12-year-olds, so they have TVs in the back of the current minivan that we have. but they're on their iPads now that they're older, more or on the Switch or whatever, more than they are on the TV screens. So I'm curious whether or not because it's getting harder and harder to find a vehicle with those screens that doesn't cost an exorbitant amount of money and come with a bunch of other features that we don't care about. So I'm kind of wondering how long that will be a thing.
I
As
think the screens are good when they're little, when they're really
Yeah.
little, and then you're kinda choosing what they watch, where they can just sit back and have the lean back experience, but 12-year-olds and older, they're gonna want their own independent screen. There's no way they're gonna want that unless there's a universal movie that's playing that everybody wants to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as
save your
somebody
money.
as somebody with no kids, but a big kid herself and also in technology, I sort of think that the screens on the car is gonna get obsolete so much faster. You know, you can buy all kinds of third-party things to hold a screen back there if you really need to. I think that would probably be a better way to go.
Yeah. And I just bought recently for stuff I'm working on outside of here. I just bought like a little 15-inch portable monitor from Amazon. It was like $60. You know, if my son
Yeah.
wanted to hook the Switch up or we wanted to drag the Xbox along and hook it up to the back of that monitor, we could probably mount it and make it safe enough where it's mounted there and
100%.
not gonna cause
Mhm.
any problems.
Yep.
It's only gonna be 1080p though, so that's a
I
downside.
I think he'll live for, those few
Yeah.
hours.
He might, but I won't, Lamar. I won't. I'm just
Understood.
gonna run through the specs and then we'll get to our next topic here. The range on these vehicles start at 327 miles for the all-wheel drive and go up to, which is a recent thing, the 357 miles for the rear-wheel drive, which is, I think Tesla came out with that a week or 2 weeks ago. 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds for the all-wheel drive, 5.4 seconds for rear-wheel drive, 5 passengers, and starts at $44,990 or $48,990 for the all-wheel drive. And they are no longer selling the launch edition. That went away pretty quick. Any thoughts on the specs?
So, I've started to think that I'm not as wedded to the range that I wanted before. I always was thinking there's no way that I would get a car that's under 300-mile range. But I realize my daily driving is certainly less than that. I have the luxury of charging at home, so I can, top up anytime I want. On the rare occasion that, I'm driving more than 100 miles one way, all right, fine. I mean, even now when I drive down to San Diego, I still have to charge for like 2 minutes on my way back in order to have enough to get home. So, I'm okay with that. Um, it's not I don't know that it's really changing the list of cars that I'm looking at, but, it's definitely something that has become less important for me.
That's
How
a
about you,
really good
Lamar?
point. Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I have a charger at home. A lot of local driving. Most I'll drive down. I'm in a valley area. So if I drive down to that Santa Monica area or back, it's not. I'm not using up. I have never had to charge outside of my house except when I've driven to Vegas and back. Like when have I done a long range type of
Mhm,
thing, but I've never gone to a mall to have to charge or anything. Like so range is not as important, but I understand people's need just to have that buffer for that range anxiety. Like I get it, but
mhm.
adding another 15 miles to or 20 miles to the version I have is to me is not a big deal. It wouldn't be a situation where I make the decision to get a new car based on that.
What would be your like bare minimum that you would look at for range and feel comfortable spending? Let's say the vehicle is we'll just pick a number at $52,000. What do you need for range for $52,000?
I'd be happy with 250. I mean, it's workable.
You and I have our minds are just linked, ma'am. I
Yeah,
was saying 250 in my head, but I was also giggling about $50,000. Like at that point, you give me all the range if I'm spending that much money.
Right?
right.
Yeah. So I think the lower cost ones I can see why they have that 250 range, but I don't. If I'm spending 52,000,
Yeah,
bump
there's
it up a little
certainly
bit.
an expectation.
Sure.
There's a
Yeah.
little margin in there to add some to the battery for the automaker for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's since we're all three Tesla owners, let's talk about owning a Tesla in the current climate. Have you had any sort of issues or felt? I did a story on the last episode, kind of teeing this question up, and Lamar brought this question. I think is a good question. There was a study done, or they did some polling, and they said 50% of Tesla owners have experienced some sort of vandalism to their vehicle. And what it should have said was 50% of Tesla owners polled, because there are 7 million Tesla owners out there. I
Okay.
highly doubt that 3.5 million people have had their car vandalized at that level.
I I think 50% even polled is quite high. Like
Seems
they
that
have
way.
to be, yeah, they have to be living in a really aggressive area. I so just the audience know I live in California. As Pat knows, you see a Tesla about every 15 cars on average when you're on on the road. So it's a numbers game here. So when all that was going on, I didn't, obviously there was some anxiety because it's happening, but uh with so many on the road, I didn't feel like was going to be targeted, by anyone. So I didn't have that whole like, oh no, I'm gonna trade my car in right now, type of situation. And I've never had. I mean, I may have had some people aggressive on the road, but they're always, this is
Yeah,
L.A. so so
exactly.
they're always aggressive. But in all seriousness, I've never felt the need to like I'm really against the whole, oh, get a bumper sticker. That'll show everybody you're on the. And I'm just like I just don't feel like I need to prove or defend the purchase I made that had nothing to do with the man. This is a publicly traded company, and I made like what if the Ford CEO did something egregious? Is everybody not going to get rid of their Fords? I understand the people's emotions behind it, but emotions should not turn into let's hurt other people and their property, and because we're mad at this one man. So I was not going, now will I get another Tesla? That's an interesting question. I'm definitely, like Pat is, I'm definitely shopping the market, but and being a public person online, so I have commenters, of course, who know I have a Tesla. So yeah, there's been a few people like, you need to sell your car, and I was like, I'm very against people telling me what I need to do. So I'm going to double down on that. It's like, no, if you're going to give me the money to get out of my lease, yeah, feel free. I will consider, if you're going to pay off my lease and pay the down payment on a new car. Sure, I'll think about it. Otherwise, please be quiet. And that's just how I feel about it. And I like driving my car. Yeah, and people come in and out of companies. So we can't. I just try not to make decisions based off of that. But definitely, it's a interesting climate to drive it. I will say that.
Yeah, there's like 112,000 or 125,000 Tesla employees.
Yeah.
It is you're going to make like my thing when people look at the stock price and they celebrate that it went down because Elon lost X amount of money. Okay, that's fine. You can be happy because he lost a bunch of money, but you know that there are 125,000 other people in that company who also lost a bunch of money, and some of those people wanted to buy a house, or they wanted to take a vacation, or they wanted to put money into their retirement, or whatever it is they wanted to do with their money. um, their fortunes are tied to him, and he should be more responsible with their fortunes, to be honest with you. But I don't take any pleasure in anybody losing money, but I definitely don't take pleasure out of people losing money who had nothing to do with how Elon is acting. So, what about you, Pat?
Yeah, I live in West LA, right adjacent to Santa Monica, so you might almost say a very liberal part of town, and I definitely saw, um I mean, here, yeah, every 15th car is a Tesla, but also every 30th car is a Cybertruck. There's 2 within a block of me. So I saw a Cybertruck that somebody had spray painted an expletive on the side, and to be honest, probably was the owner who did it himself, is my guess. Um, there's I know that there's been reports of, some vandalism happening with Tesla cars that were stored or parked or something. I haven't really seen it and definitely have not experienced any issues, but it is on my mind a little bit. I do always worry, is somebody going to key my car or, do some other damage, which would never hurt Elon. Actually, it'd probably help him if I took the car to a body shop that, is sponsored by or supported by Tesla. Um, so it will probably weigh a little bit. I've gotten shade from some people personally, uh, people that I know, but not enough where if the new Tesla Model Y ends up being the right car for me, that's not gonna stop me from making the commitment to go that route for my next car. There's a lot about the Tesla Model Y that I really like compared to the cars that I've been looking at even, and it's getting harder and harder, besides the fact that maybe this is, I just hit it at the right time, but I'm getting text messages from Tesla with a lot of incentives to stay with Tesla when the lease is up.
That's why I got my 2024. Is it if I could, Bodie, you mind if I jump it, say the
Yeah,
story real quick?
go ahead.
So yeah, so I had a 2021 one that I got during in the pandemic. We'll talk about I had the car I had before that in the BMW section. 2024 rolls around and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? The market's bigger now. Look around. But then at that same time, there was a $7,500 rebate that just got reenacted. And also at that particular time, I think it was in February or March of 2024. Maybe it was because of the quarter was ending. They had this big Tesla Y sale, and where they were giving like another 4,000 off of it
Oh,
on
wow.
top of the rebate. And if I drove down to Irvine to pick it up, it would be like another 2,000 off. So I got a
Wow.
total of almost $15,000 off of the new lease, and turning in my car was my current at 2021 was a cinch. There was no body, no fees or anything. So it was a no-brainer at that point. Even if I was looking at something else, to to get that my lease payment is a lot lower now. My insurance actually went down because of it. And so, yeah, I'm gonna stay in my car as long as I can. And I just started the FSD driving, which I never used. This is my first month of using it, and I'm hooked. We'll talk about that in another show,
Mm,
maybe.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you have
yeah.
FSD pad? I was gonna ask that question.
Oh, okay.
No, no, I didn't buy it. I've been able to use it, I think 3 separate months, when they offered it for free, and I'm not a big fan. I mean, I enjoy it on the freeway. That definitely is very helpful. In the city streets of West LA, mm-mm, no. It's I like to compare it to, like, a drunken grandparent driving, in the afternoon. It just it's not responsive, it makes me nervous, I definitely have to be a little hyper aware, even more aware when driving, and I'm just gonna have a little aside, I've driven in, the Waymo self-driving taxis, and those are like they drive like I drive. So, Lamar, I don't think you're in an area where they have them, but, they're delightful, and when you compare that to the Tesla full self-driving, it's night and day.
No, Waymo's are awesome. I've actually done the just to uh so I won't get in trouble. I have done a sponsored deal with them. So I've done
Nice.
two videos with them in the last few months, and they are amazing. I was nervous the first time, then I was like, oh no, they got it. It was really
Yeah,
enjoyable. Yeah.
yeah, lidar radar makes a big difference.
Oh yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Waymo. I will say because I had access to it because I live in Tempe. I moved here in 2018, and I got access to it. I'm pretty sure in November of 2018. Like as soon as I could apply, I did, and I think November, and it's so improved. I mean, even when I first started, there was still safety drivers in the vehicles. Um, the only gripe I have is that I never know where it's going to pick me up when I make the
Yes.
when I call the car.
This
I
is
mean,
true.
after you get assigned a car where to go, and that's fine. But I never know. Like I was at my kid's track meet, and I'm like way on the field, and I had to call a car, and it showed up, but it was on the other side of the campus, and I was like, "Well, that's not really convenient. You know where I am. You should be able to get a little bit closer." But that is a very small. I mean, if I took a bus home, I would have to walk to the bus stop. It's a very small inconvenience, which I think
Yeah,
they'll solve. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Waymo does in the future.
for
Let's
sure.
move on to our next vehicle, which is the BMW iX, and I'm going to. So there's different versions and flavors of the iX. And I'm gonna kind of eliminate the M60 because that is, starts at, like, $130,000, unless one of you really wants to talk about that car.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope.
So that gives us the xDrive 50 and the xDrive 60, which are both fairly close in specs. The 60 is a little bit more of sounds like, and we'll get your opinions on this, a little bit more of a comfort vehicle in terms it doesn't have, like, the fastest 0 to 60 time, but it's also a good solid car, like, in the middle of what BMW is offering in that model. So, we started with you last time, Lamar. Pat, what are your thoughts on the
Mhm.
iX?
I it's probably in my top 5 of, the cars that I'm looking at to either, to get a new car in July when my lease is up. And, one thing that has put me off on it has been the price because it's obviously more than a Tesla Model Y. Um, but what you're getting in exchange for that is BMW, which, I've driven 4 different now BMW manufactured cars previous to the Tesla, and I enjoy BMW a lot. I haven't test driven this one yet, so that's still, up in the air, and that may change its position on the list one way or the other. Um, but I love the look of it. It's, one of my very important points is what I call button vomit in the car. So I like the Tesla Model Y, you don't see buttons or dials or vent, controls or anything. It's all on the screen, and I love that, and that's sort of the extreme. And then, you've got regular ICE cars to date have had lots of switches and buttons and dials and all of that. So it's got more than I would like, but everything else about it, probably makes up for that.
What about you, Lamar?
So I'm a former BMW owner. My first one was in 2007. I had the 325i. Oh my god, the power in that thing. Pat,
Mhm.
that yeah, that
Yep.
just the and then 2017 I moved to the X3. Love that. I kept that until I
Mm.
got my Tesla. So the iX reminds me in size of the X3, and I kind of like a car that's a little bit. That's why I like the Y. It's a little bit higher off the ground.
Yep.
I don't feel like I'm just like falling in. BMW's quality is number one for me. It's less about. I know this is the EV, so it's less about the power and all that. But to my understanding, they built this one from the ground up. I could be mistaken, but I don't believe this was based off
I think you're
another.
right.
Like they didn't make a
Yeah.
okay, they didn't make
Is
an
it
X3 just electric. So this is
Correct.
from the ground up. So they put a lot of thought into it, and yeah, I would say the one thing I really like about them and another car we'll talk about, I love the screen. And I don't want to say I'm getting tired of the tablet on the side, but I really do wish there was a screen in front of me again. I know the top Teslas, X or whatever, they
Mhm.
have that.
Mhm.
And I would like that. I would like that. I like they have that longer screen. And the reason is another reason I'm an Apple user, heavy Apple user, CarPlay. I miss CarPlay
Yep.
so much. that it's
Same.
annoying. Yes.
Yeah.
And with the new CarPlay and BMW is working with Apple, it looks fantastic on it. So, that's just another reason. And again, just the quality, the suspension, you definitely going to pay a little bit more money for the
Mhm.
BMW, but I see what you're saying about the buttons. Even that center button, that crystal is
Oh,
like it's a little, yeah, but
I'm pretty sure I heard
it's
that you can get a trim without the crystal part, 'cause that was when I
okay.
first saw that, I was like, "Nope, nope, mm-mm."
Yeah, and I did, I just like, I'm not a huge luxury car person, but this one just, given my age and where I am in life, it just seemed like, hey, you know what? This is gonna be a really nice car. My friends clown me about this car because they hate the grill. Most people
Mhm.
hate the grill. I like that it's different. I don't care. I'm not gonna be staring at it.
I'm
I don't know what you
indifferent
feel
about
about
the
the grill,
grill.
Pat.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I'm
very I
indifferent
don't
about it. It
care.
doesn't bother me one way or the other, but I for some reason and I think it's BMW non-BMW owners who seem to have a really strong opinion about the grill.
Exactly. But, yeah, just to fit and finish and being a previous BMW owner, this is number 1 on my list. If I still have 2 more years on my Tesla lease. But if I was looking for a car right now or wanted to change, this is the top 1 on my list right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm just going to run down some of the other features that I put in here that I thought were interesting. You touched on the EV platform built on its own on its own platform, which I think is
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
I early on I can understand why they had to the Hyundai Kona and the Niro, the Kia Niro. They had to that was early on in that Hyundai Group's process. So they kind of built it off of based on what the actual ICE powered car would do, but it's almost malpractice nowadays to not have an EV built on its own dedicated platform. Comfort. One of the reviews I read, it said comfortable, velvety ride. Spacious interior with lots of headroom. That's really important if you're tall. I'm not sure how tall both of you are. I'm, like I said, 5'10", 5'11", depending on the day. Um, I did find that the Ionic 6. I did find that the Ionic 6 in the back kind of slanted down a little too close for my comfort.
Mm.
So it's still important to me that the headroom. You mentioned Apple CarPlay and the new Apple CarPlay, which I've seen a little bit today, right before we talked about this, and I haven't even got a chance to dig into it. But they showed it off, I think, 2 years ago, and they're finally rolling it out. It looks like,
Mhm.
and I love that. But it's also Android Auto.
Yes.
And then I was curious, and I don't think this is a lot of money for this feature, but it's $2,500 for the electrochromatic panoramic glass roof. Are you paying for that?
I Being a Tesla owner and having that's a tough one because I kinda like the glass roof that I have now. I don't know, Pat, what do you I throw it to you. I'm not sure. I might pay for it.
yeah, you know what? I don't think that I would pay extra for it. I was in a car,
Mm,
and it might have been the Rivian that had that, and it didn't feel like I mean, it was cool, absolutely, it was like a fun gadget to have, but it wasn't a necessity. Like, it'd be a lot lower on my list.
sure.
So I was okay. So if anybody doesn't know, the electrochromatic glass actually goes opaque. It's clear, and then you hit a button, it charges the glass with little electricity, and then it goes opaque.
Yeah.
I have a friend who has a very nice house. Well, they have. It's not just his house. He and his wife have a very nice house in San Diego, and the room that we stay in is like that. It's like got the whole master setup, right? It's really nice, but there's a glass door basically that looks outside in the bathroom, and I'm like, it's like, Dan, what is this about? And he goes, oh no, just hit this button, and it just went completely opaque within seconds, like milliseconds, and I was like, man, that is so cool.
Okay. I'm a tech guy. I would pay for that. I'll go on the record and say it. Yeah. That's cool.
I'd pay for the
Yeah,
door to the bathroom to do that, but I don't know that I would do it on a sunroof of a car.
yeah, yeah. No, that's probably a good idea. Yeah, he didn't put that in there, that just came with the house, but the guy who owned the house was very tech forward, and the whole house has just got a lot of cool
Mm.
stuff to it.
Mhm.
Alright, so I'm just gonna kinda give some specs on the range, information on the specs, I should say. We'll start with range. 324 miles for the xDrive 50, 364 miles for the xDrive 60, which I think is
Okay.
great.
Yeah, it's really nice.
If you wanted to bump up to that performance model, you're looking at the M60, which is 3.2 seconds, which is fantastic. However, that is in the $120,000 range. So you're looking at about 5.4 for the xDrive 50 and a little slower for the 60. It wasn't that much slower. I didn't write it down. All-wheel drive. Every version comes with all-wheel drive. Seats 5 people and starts at $88,425.
That's the problem right there. That's the
Yeah.
kicker. Yeah.
So I've had
88,000.
2 so my neighbor just, leased one, and I have a friend who just purchased one, and I will say that the difference between dealing with BMW and dealing with Tesla is the price for the Tesla is what it is. It's like you order it like you order something on Amazon, right? But at a dealership, there's negotiation room, and their ultimate purchase price was negotiated very well. I'll put it that way. Um,
Okay.
so that gives me, hope in terms of at least having the price come down. I'm willing to pay more. My ideal budget for a car is probably somewhere around $50,000. But I'm willing to pay more if that additional cost is in things like luxury. And the other important thing to me is that how quickly can I push my passenger back into their seat and shock them when I accelerate? That's something that I've always had fun with on the Tesla, and I definitely wanna continue doing that.
Are you a leaser for life?
Yeah, pretty well for now.
Yeah.
I'm not retired
Yeah.
yet, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, with the I'm pretty much like that with EVs. The technology is changing too fast. I don't wanna buy anything right
That's
now. And I
exactly
don't have a
why.
family or anything, so
Yeah. That was pretty much the main reason why I leased this car was because I didn't know what the battery situation was gonna be like, in 3 years or 4 years, and I didn't really
yeah.
wanna that's a big expense if you have to deal with fixing or replacing a battery. Um,
Mhm.
but I also honestly, I kinda get bored with cars, so 3 years is a nice sweet spot, then I get a new car in 3 years and I'm happy with it, which is another reason why I may not go back to a Tesla Model Y is because while they've made some great changes and they're on the significant side, it might not be enough to make me feel like I have an absolutely new car.
When I went from the 2021 to 2024, besides I kept the same color. The red is a little different, and of course, a couple of fit and finishes, but most of my friends had no idea I got a new car. It's
Yeah.
just it's just the same looking car, and so I feel like you. It's like, at what's it, 2026 or 2027, whenever I'm due, I
Yeah.
something else will be nice. So I'm in
At
agreement with
minimum,
you.
right now I've got the white car with the black interior, so I'm gonna reverse it. I'll probably get that new Quicksilver color, which means that everybody in the world is gonna have a silver Tesla now because there are white Teslas all over the place, and then I'm gonna pop for
Yeah.
the white interior.
Ooh, that's what I have. It's nice. Don't have kids in it.
That's what I it looks beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, we went with the black interior,
Smart.
just for the kids.
Yeah.
So, alright, so that I think that pretty well covers the iX. Next up, we had the Polestar 3, and Pat, this was your pick. Um,
Mhm.
what do you like about the Polestar 3?
It is smooth, luxurious, very comfortable to drive. And this is in comparison to the Tesla Model Y. The BMW could very well be the same, but this was they had 3 models, and this was the middle model, so it was the all-wheel drive, and I believe it had the air suspension on this one. It was really quiet, and, I had a great, great experience test driving it. I love the car. There's it's just very expensive. but I think it's hovers around the same price as the iX.
Yeah,
And
it
they're
starts
kind of
at
the same.
67,000.
Yeah, but that's the lower end model. The middle model is the all-wheel drive, and that gives you the additional horsepower. It's a pretty significant jump, and I think that one starts at around 75. I could be wrong.
No, the lower end model is 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds.
Right.
In an EV is criminal. That is so slow.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They don't even have those to test drive, the lower end models.
Oh yeah. Is it just there as a placeholder to say it intros at this and they sell very few of them?
I don't know. It's what they're promoting. They're kinda like Tesla in that they have a store, it's not a dealership model. So,
Mhm.
you pick your options, and then that's the price. There's no negotiation. It's just what it is. They are offering an amazing incentive right now, at least through the beginning of June, um, $15,000 off, which is a good chunk of change off of the price of the car. And if you're coming from a Tesla, whether you own or lease, it's an additional 5,000 off that they take off the down
That's
payment. Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's
so
tempting.
it's they're really I think the car is new. I hardly see them around here. I think I've seen twice, two of them in my lifetime,
I've
being
seen one.
driven around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do
So
you
they're
feel
they're
about
really
how
trying to
long
get
it
them.
is?
The length, it didn't I test drove it a couple weekends ago, and it didn't feel that much bigger than the Model Y. It is, but it didn't feel that way. It does feel like my field of view towards the back is less than in the Model Y. The windows are a little narrower, but there's
Mhm.
tons of cameras, so that's helpful.
Now, what did you think? Because Bart Busschots is on our text thread with us. Bart loves his
Mhm.
Polestar 2. What did you think
Yeah.
of the technology in the cabin?
It leans towards Tesla technology, it's minimalistic, it has a few more buttons and things here, but it's a very clean interior. Um, the, massage function in the seat, uh, I think was not as impressive as it sounds. It wasn't very strong, and I just think that's a weird place to have a massage function. Um, I didn't pay attention if it worked while we were driving or not. Uh, and then having the speaker in the headrest was fun, but, I the of the stuff on the interior, what I probably would really appreciate is the cooled seats or the air conditioned seats or vented
Mhm.
seats. I'm not sure what they actually call that feature, but, it gets warm out here, not like some places, Arizona, um, but I would still like to have, cool seats when I get in the car. That would be nice.
Alright, and then, Lamar, do you have any experience with the Polestar 3?
None. I've seen one on the road. I actually forgot about them, and I saw one on the road, and I'm like, "What is that?" This was the time I was like, kinda looking at EVs, so I took a picture of it, and then I came home, I was like, "Oh, Polestar." I had never seen their site, so no experience. It looks great. I see we all tend to like the crossover SUV. I've noticed
Mhm.
all 3 of us tend to like that car. So I like this one. I don't like the narrow ending I see what you're saying. I looked at the picture. I don't love that, but again,
Yeah.
if it has a lot of technology, a lot of cameras, it might not matter,
The Polestar
for the
4,
driving.
not that it's I don't know that it's even here yet, although they're advertising it, has no window in the back. It's all,
Yeah.
camera produced
Oh,
view.
that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, it's camera produced. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, you have a camera in for the rear view so you have a rear view mirror, but it's a camera that's showing you what you're looking at, so you can't turn around and look behind you.
Truckers would love that.
Yeah. I was a couple weekends ago, I was in a GMC EV pickup, and I can't remember which model, but I'm gonna say it's about the size of the Ford 150 Lightning, so big.
Mm.
Um, and that had a digital, rear view camera, which was actually kinda nice because you get a better field of view in a truck like that than you would otherwise. Um, it also did this really cool thing called a crab walk or crab drive, which lets you almost to drive sideways. Not quite, but at this weird angle. It was a little off-putting, at first, but it was super cool.
Yeah, it makes it so you can fit into tight spaces and
Yep.
maneuver. Like, some fire trucks have that feature as well.
Mm,
Alright, so I'm just gonna wrap off some, features here and jump in if you wanna comment on any of this, but we talked about the active air suspension, which I wish the Model Y had air suspension. I would have paid an upgrade for that for sure.
Mhm.
The beautiful panoramic roof, the Bowers& and Wilkins stereo system, 14.5 infotainment screen, Android Auto with Apple CarPlay, and Bart says the interface is as if IKEA designed the interface for the
hmm.
car, and it's not a bad thing.
Yes.
That's a compliment.
Okay, I was wondering. A
It's
little
it's
worried
it's
there.
different. It's different than what I'm accustomed to. It's sorta like blocks of information in places.
Yeah, kinda like
It
the
would take a minute.
Windows Phone,
Yeah,
right?
Oh, that's a good okay, I understand that now. I was a Windows Phone
yeah.
user.
Oh,
It
yeah?
would take a
Yeah.
minute to get
Oh,
used to
yeah.
it, but I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, some of my friends who are not EV fans, they tend to be like they'll take a picture of car like you did, Lamar, and they'll say, "Which car is this?" And it's always the Polestar 2. Some of my friends have taken the same picture of the same car in a different color and asked me what it was, and it was the same car I told you last time. But, uh, it definitely Polestar has really good design sense, and it's a company that's folded in with a Volvo. Of course, they're gonna have that, but, um, so we're looking at a range of 279 to 350 miles. Pat, you're right, it starts at $75,000 for that, mid-tier trim. 0 to 60 between 4.5 and 7.5 seconds. It's got all-wheel drive and a rear-wheel drive, and it's also got an additional performance pack if you wanna spend the money for that. If you want the base model, you're looking at 67,500. And that leads us to our final EV, and this is Lamar's pick. And this and its cousin is one of my favorite cars. I just wish it had a frunk. What's your last pick here, Lamar?
Yeah, so this is the Kia EV6. This was, and disclaimer, I have not had a chance to drive it yet, but I've seen them. I've walked up to them and looked inside of them. It's a beautiful car.
Mhm.
Like my last Kia that I tested, some brand, some third party brand. Let me test the Kia Sportage in 2017 before I bought my BMW X3, and that was just a fun car. It was really nice. It had the Apple and Android in there, and it just had a good feel to it. I've not, and I have friends who have other Kias, and it just seems like Kia gets a lot of hate for just being, oh, you got a Kia is a cheap car, and I'm like, well, not this one. Uh, um, yeah, it's a really nice car. I think it has respectable range. Like I said, that 237 to 319, I think is fine. Um, what else? And then on the website, lots of different trims, and that's true. You can go crazy to your heart's content on customizing. I'm a person that likes to customize things sometimes. Um, the thing I don't like, and I'm just being honest, because it's a Kia and it has this reputation, it being over 40,000. Let me see, what did you put in the price here?
It starts
Yeah,
at 42.
tops out at 65. I'm just like, for a Kia, that is a hard pill to swallow. And I'm not saying they're cheap, but I'm just saying there are a value brand. They're not bringing anything like self-driving and all this other weird technology. I should say weird, but I'm just like, for some people, it's scary technology. It's a pretty basic EV. It's powerful, but the price makes me hesitate. Like I was really seriously looking at this car in 2024, But I couldn't get past. I'm like, why is it so expensive? Why is it more than my Tesla?
Yeah.
What is Kia offering? They have a great warranty system, but beyond that, what are they offering that's better than what my Tesla's offering?
Well, it
So
looks
I
like
didn't
that
get it.
that particular model. So there's 8 different trims for this car, and then there's different things you can customize in each trim. Lamar's 100% right. You can get the car you want. You don't have to necessarily settle, or as you can get as close as possible, right?
Mhm.
And the thing that I really appreciate about Kia's website, because doing the research on this, I go to dealer websites, I go to auto manufacturer websites, I go to review sites, and getting a straight answer for any of these things is often very difficult.
Oh, yes.
Kia, it was like compare, compare, compare. It put all 8 vehicles up there for me to compare to look at. So Kia makes it very easy, and I'm sure Hyundai does the similar way to look at each of these vehicles side by side and determine what's important to you. And it is a
Mhm.
list. It is
It
not just
is.
like 5 or 6 things. It's a whole list of things that you can be like, well, that's not important to me, so you can move this one out. Kia also has that 800-volt architecture, which means less wiring. The car is going to be lighter. It charges faster without heating up. It's got those beautiful, and this is the thing I like the most about Kia and Hyundai is those screens. I think the screens that they have, and they have a
Screens are
nice
great.
mix of buttons,
Mhm.
Android Auto and CarPlay, and then you can get augmented reality heads up in the top 3 trims if you wanted that kind of thing. I don't know if that's worth $65,000 on its own, but it does have that. Pat, what are your thoughts on the EV6?
So I had not really considered it much, and to be honest, once I saw that it was on Lamar's list, I went and took a look at it, and yeah, there's a lot of trims to choose from. Uh, I would say in terms of making the choices on the interior, like, I think there's only 5 or 6 colors. There's only 2 interior choices, in terms of, basically a dark, black and then a gray kinda color. So it's minimized that way, but it looks really appealing. I haven't looked at the interior yet to see what the level of button vomit is, but, um, I'm attracted to the aesthetics of the exterior, definitely. Like, it's a really nicely designed car, I think. I'd like to, this is definitely gonna be on my list of test drives to take, because I wanna see what it feels like.
Now, I'm gonna
I
get in
do.
your pocketbooks just for a second. If you like this car, I would highly suggest you check out the GV60, the Genesis GV60, because it
Okay.
kind of mixes what this car has with a little bit more luxury.
Hmm.
Yeah, go
EV6,
ahead.
okay.
Is
Yeah, I
whose
cut you off
which
a little
brand
more.
is
oh, no, no,
Genesis?
It's a Hyundai Group.
Hyundai,
It's
okay.
a part of Hyundai. Yeah.
oh, so this
Got
all
it.
part of the same okay. No, I was just gonna say the other thing that attracted me is that they're not the first, but I think they're one of the first that has the Tesla charger,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
already. The what is it called? It's not
That's
called
nice.
Tesla charger.
Next.
It's and yeah,
Max,
NEC,
yeah.
yeah, and so and that's nice. So you can go to any supercharger, and I think I haven't checked. I think you can handle the 300 ki
Oh yeah,
I don't
kilowatt. Okay.
I
it
don't
will
know.
handle way more than a Tesla. Maybe the supercharger version 4, it might be able to take
Okay, I haven't
all of
seen
that,
version 4
but
yet.
yeah, me neither. But version 3, there's like a 3 plus, which is kind of like, it's got some version 4 stuff in it. It'll be able to charge just fine on the supercharger, and as a matter of fact,
I'm
you could probably outperform the supercharger, so
mm,
they got a little if you buy this car, you're and Tesla upgrades their stuff, you're definitely still gonna benefit from that upgrade.
I'm gonna say this,
And I wouldn't have to change
not
my
knowing not
oh,
knowing Pat not knowing
oh,
Pat more than an
sorry.
hour. No, it's okay. It's not knowing Pat more than an hour, I'm gonna safely say she will not like this Genesis. I'm looking at all these buttons.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it does have buttons.
It's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of even for me, it's overwhelming now. I'm looking at this.
for me, going into an EV car from an ICE car, from a regular gas-powered car, I think my expectation is I want it more futuristic, which to me means less buttons.
Yes.
So if it's a car that's got tons of buttons, now I feel like I'm driving a gas car, so what am I doing?
No, that's very fair.
Now, having said that, I'm going to throw a curveball at you because we're coming up on our hour here. What do you both, in brief comments here, what do you both think of the Slate pickup truck that was just announced a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, I have an opinion on that.
Go ahead.
I love the idea of a bare minimalistic. I actually wrote some notes about this. I didn't know you were gonna ask, but I real brief. I think EVs have scared a lot of people for different reasons. Not enough chargers or whatever, range anxiety. But I think one of the others is that EVs came rushing out. Tesla was one with self driving, and it could do this, and it could turn, it could park for you. And I think for a lot of people, that tie-in of accelerated technology and just EV got mixed in, and I've talked to people about this, and then they don't want one because they don't want to deal with all that. I love the Slate because it's like we ain't doing none of that. It's like we can charge it charges up, and you just go, no paint, nothing. And if you want a 5-seater, you can. It's modular. You can add these things. I don't think I'm the market for it. I think there is a large market for people who just want something completely basic. That price is wild at 20,000 if they can actually do that. And I'm all in. I just want people, the more people to get EVs, the more chargers that'll get made, the more people will relax and realize this is not really a big deal. And I think we'll all be better for it.
Excellent. And how about you, Pat?
I think, and I'm 100% giving away my age here, but I think that there's a market for this in people who are needing to afford their first car, period. Because when I was a kid, 16, 17, 18, the cars were Volkswagen Bugs or a small pickup truck. And those were the affordable cars. And they don't make those small pickup trucks anymore, but I feel like this is just gonna fall right in there. And the fact that, it's a slate gray, you got artists out there that are gonna customize this and make it fun. With the price, I think it's perfect. I think it makes, owning a car much more accessible to people who couldn't otherwise afford it, whether it's EV or not. Even I don't think can you get a gas-powered car at $20,000? I don't
You
think the choices
probably
are
can.
there's
Like the Chevy Spark, maybe, is probably in
Oh,
that
yeah,
general price range.
You
but
can
they're
get
not very
one.
practical, they're super small.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, the great
Yeah.
thing about, and I'm like I have twins. They're 12. In 4 years, we're gonna need to think about what we're gonna do for a car for them. I'm not buying 2 cars, but I would be willing to buy a car when they turn 16 and then maybe get the other one a car when they go to college. But I would probably get this is really appealing to me because they can there's 2 people that can get in the car, so they can go on dates, but they can't have a bunch of people in the car. But as they get older, if they keep the car, as they get older, they can add a back end to it, and they can put a bench seat back there if they get a family or whatever, and it's not going to break their bank to
Mhm.
grow with this car. Versus, I had a Mitsubishi pickup, which was a 2-seater, very small pickup truck, very low to the ground. Um, it was just me and my wife at the time, who's my girlfriend. There's no hey, let's all go to the club together. It's like we'll meet you there because there's no room in here. So,
Not a lot of
in
trouble
one
you're
side,
getting
that's really
into.
good. What's that?
I said not a lot of trouble you're getting into.
No, as a result, my next car after that was a Saturn 4-door because I was like, I want to be able to take people with me. I was in my 20s by that time, but yeah.
Oh, wow, I remember Saturn. Saturn, wow.
Oh, love the
Yeah.
Saturn.
Yeah, good car.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that you can grow with this vehicle. I love that you can customize it. I know I have friends who are when we were younger, we're in that modding phase,
Mhm.
right? You can they made
Mhm.
all these changes. Like I had a friend that had a Dodge Neon, and he probably had twice the amount of speakers and tires on that car in Alaska, where it snowed. And it was his only car. Then the car was worth, but it looked cool and he loved doing that kind of stuff. So this is something that people could do and there's already a marketplace. Like Slate is developing a marketplace around it.
I've owned 3 Dodge
Yeah, I think it's
Neons.
genius.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I loved it. Loved them.
yeah. The Dodge Neon's a great car.
Mhm.
All right. So, Pat, if people want to find out more about what you're doing, where should they go to follow you?
Working on the website, but it's Dengler Consulting, Dengler Consulting.com, or you can find me at Pat Dengler on most of the socials, Instagram and all of that.
And how about you, Lamar?
Yeah, I'm Lamar Wilson everywhere. You could also go to lamarwilson.com. That's Lamar with 2 R's. I'm on all the socials. Just got my finally sat down and got my, LinkedIn together because I was told that was important. And so, yeah, look forward to seeing you.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for coming on, and yeah, I hope that we could do this again once you've both decided what vehicle you're going to purchase. And Lamar, that's a little bit further out than it is for Pat for you, but I think this was a good chat, and it's nice to hear what's important to other people besides just me. So
Yeah,
thank you both.
thank you guys. Great to talk.
All right, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed our EV discussion. I sure did. I actually knew very little about the Polestar 3 other than what we talk about on this show. And I really hadn't spent much time looking at the BMW iX either. And it is a polarizing car with that kidney grille that they have up front. Um, but yeah, I hope you learned something. If you liked this kind of content, can you please just send me an email, Bodie, Bodie, at 918digital.com, because I would like to do more of it, but only if you folks think we should do more. I know the show does not have one set pattern, and that is really what some people like when I get feedback. But it's also what some people don't like when I get feedback. So if you would like more EV discussion, let me know, because I'm thinking of I would like to do some roundtables with people in our community as well. So if you have those thoughts, email me. If you want to check out what Pat is doing, you can go to denglerconsulting.com. And again, I'll put that link in the show notes. If you want to check out what Lamar is doing, it's Lamar Wilson with 2 R's at .com, or Lamar Wilson with 2 R's on all of the social media accounts. All right, everybody, that is it for me. If you want to email me, it's Bodie. Well, I already said that. If you want to find me on X, it's at 918digital. Oh, and this episode, I should have said this at the beginning, so I'll go back and add this at the very beginning. This episode's also going to be one of our first video episodes. Now, I've done some things in the past with the Thanksgiving extravaganza, but this one, I'm going to start putting interviews on YouTube and make them video. So yeah, I'm excited about that. It's a lot more work, but I think it's worth it. All right, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you